Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Divine Eye Racing series, where today on Tuesday follows the Monday, where Division 2 follows Division 1. Today we'll be driving around France at Circuit Paul Ricard. Today's format will be different from last week. Round 1 was a short qualifying session with a race of 50%. Today we'll have a one-shot qualifying followed by a sprint race of, I believe it's 9 laps. After that, we'll have a 50% race, which should be 27 laps. My name is Olaf, aka Wops Racing, and I'll be your commentator for tonight. Now, last week, we had the first round in Abu Dhabi, which was a bit different. I was unable to spectate most of the race because the game decided to do a little silly. Point scores last race, we had the Steps taking the lead and winning the race, getting 32 points after also scoring the fastest lap of the race. Following him is Scottish with the Mercedes. Behind that is Tutschke finishing up the podium. For now, the one-shot qualifying has gone away and started. Up in the front we have Ricard in the Williams, and the Steps very close behind. These three at the top here are struggling a bit to find the leads. We can see two drivers already dipping out of the one-shot qualifying. One of them being Scottish. The driver that is way at the top of the standings has to start way at the back for the sprint race. Ricard currently has the lead going on to the the back straight. But here we can see Tutschke doing a bit of an alternative strategy, it looked like. He gained some time on the straight there. So that is the difference in setup, most likely, between one driver to another. Paul Ricard has some very long straights, but it also has some very long mid-speed corners, like this one and like the section that we're heading up right now. These ones are very long mid-speed corners, as we have a third DNF in the AlphaTauri of Sven. The drivers can change their setup accordingly, have their low wing or high wing, depending on where they want to put the emphasis on the track, on the lap. Ricard currently still leading going into the final few corners. The last right-hander only has to have a good exit there, which he has. And will he be able to keep it this way until the finish line? Yes, he can. Ricard taking the pole position here by 4/10. Jan in second and Totuccio in third. Yesterday we saw a difference from P1 to P2 of 5/10. Today we have 4/10 on a way shorter track. So that is very, very nicely done. So the grid for the sprint race will look as follows. Ricard and Jan will make up the front row. Totuccio in third and the Steps finishing up the second row. Behind that we have Tutschke, Smith, Tongana, F1 Dyno, Shermanator and Thok rounding out the top 10. Behind that we have Ishii, Jaun, AP17, Blue Dark, Sven, Swanny, Scottish and Mookie. So that is 18 drivers on the grid for the sprint race. Mookie joining later on, so Scottish does not have to start way at the back. He gets one position for free as long as his start is good enough. If you have a keen eye, you would have noticed that the grid is split between 4.6 seconds on a single lap pace. Now this can of course be because of some mistakes. Of course, with a one-shot qualifying, you get one shot, as the name suggests, instead of a session where you can have multiple tries to get a lap going. So there might be some mistakes by these drivers all the way at the back, making those gaps a little bit bigger. But this should be a good indication on how split the grid will be for the race. First up, we have the sprint race. And after that, we will have a 50% race. If we look at the standings, the most interesting so far, of course, the driver standings is always close after only one race. But we have the team standings, which Ferrari are leading by a lot of points. Currently 54 points in first, followed by McLaren in second with 28 points. And here we see all the cars on the grid ready for the formation lap for the sprint race, where we have Ricard on the front of the grid. I'm going to quickly pull open the track map so you guys can also see what is going on and where the drivers are on track. Now, McLaren is second place with 28 points, are being followed by Mercedes and Alpine, both 26 points. And Williams is right behind that with 18 points. So currently Williams starting first and fourth. Of course, the top 8, I believe, will be getting their points for this race. So that means that everyone outside of those point positions will not be scoring any points. But Williams have a great start so far, whereas Ferrari has Mookie way at the back. Petrucci in the top 5, which is a great start. Whereas McLaren only has one driver, which is Blue Dark, currently on P14. Blue Dark finished last week in Abu Dhabi with 8 points. So that is position-wise, I believe. '13th, it shows here. 13th position. So the points scoring is a bit different from the regular F1 season. I do not currently have that right in front of me. I should have, but I don't have it memorized. But that doesn't matter, as the drivers are now getting ready to start their race. Of course, the further up you finish, the better. Everyone wants to get as many points as possible. Ricard now weaving, slowing down. Some shuffling in the back as well, as drivers are slowing down erratically. Speeding back up, getting their tires up to temperature. A bit of wheel spin and a bit of braking to get the tire temperatures up and the brake temperatures up as well. As we're waiting for the 5 lights to go on and back off again for the start of the race. There we go, the lights starting to go on. There are 5 on, and we are racing at Paul Ricard. Ricard looks to have a shabby start. Jan next to him following behind. A lot of shuffling in the back. Smith dropping a few positions behind. The steps battling with Petrucci. Petrucci getting that 3rd position and following Jan in that top 3. Petrucci shuffling behind a little bit down in P5. Not being able to capitalize on a good start. Both Alpine drivers all the way down in 17th and 18th. Great start there from Mookie. All the way up in 13th, gaining 5 positions there on the start. Very nice job there. Blue Dark dropping down a few in 17th. The steps now getting overtaken by Petrucci in the Aston Martin. After getting a great slipstream there on the straight. Now the steps is being attacked by Petrucci behind. Petrucci diving in to the slipstream, capitalizing on that. Making sure to get as close as possible before dodging out of the way and looking for a move. Further down there are some battles, as Thok is currently battling with Jaun, getting the position back. So it looks like he has lost that one a little bit beforehand. But now on his way back in the attack. Shermanator overtaking AP17 right before the end of the lap. And that is the first lap of the race done. Ricard putting in a 1:36 with those medium tires. Have a quick look at what the grid is doing. It's, I believe, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. It is exactly split between the softs and the mediums, as Mookie goes sideways and gets pushed off the track by Sven, almost losing another position there. With Shermanator has the outside down, has to concede the place, getting pushed off the track and then losing another position, getting hit behind by Smith. Going for a look, but doesn't send it hard enough. Now leaves the inside open for Smith to go through as Smith gains the position there. And we see Mookie going a little bit squirrely, having almost contact with the Aston Martin of AP17. Still going side by side on this straight. As Mookie has the inside, but does he brake late enough? Yes, he does. Parking it up in the front and keeping that position as Tutschke overtakes the steps. Dropping back from 4th. Actually had 3rd for a moment. Dropping down to 5th. And losing out on those places. But Tutschke, a great showing for Ferrari, the current championship leaders. Trying to increase that lead and grow up at top of the standings as Sven goes on the inside of Jown, and they have a severe collision, it looks like, while they are both getting out of that. Unsure how that is not a DNF for one of those drivers. Thok overtaking Swanee there as Swanee drops down a few more places, also getting overtaken by Sven, but is still on the inside. Brakes a bit later, a bit earlier, and a bit too hard. His car is ghosted, which I believe it should be AI driver going now, which means that we'll be looking at some different drivers. For example, Sven. Closing in on the Aston Martin. Tutschke going sideways up the piers. He's off the track, has to rejoin now, and drops all the way down. So the strong showing I mentioned before has gone all to waste as the steps gets his 4th position back. And Tutschke has to build that lead all over again. Now side by side battle between Smith and Shermanator. Smith getting out of that in front. Speaking of the AlphaTauri, Sven in front is also gaining on the cars ahead, as Jown is also really close to the car ahead, the Haas. So this will be a 3-way battle here for the final point scoring position, as Ishii is the first driver to get a 3-second time penalty for crossing the track limits one too many times. So yellow flag in sector 3 as it appears that Smith has gone off, has to rejoin here, side next to the Aston Martin of AP17. Looks like Blue Dark got caught off guard there, going a bit wide, which means that Smith has a better run here. Has DRS just as AP17, so he has to stick behind for a little bit. AP17 here is this second driver to receive those 3 seconds of penalty, as this 3-way battle is still continuing on. It doesn't look like Thok has DRS, but the drivers behind him do. Sven going by easily, but then again, we have Jown also in the mix, going all the way up to the inside, but doesn't have enough pace to get next to it, and has to stick behind for just a bit. Thok very well defended there. So Jown drops back and gets overtaken by Shermanator. We're currently approaching the halfway mark of the race. We've got a big swaps here, as we see Scottish all the way up into P6 and Tutschke all the way down in P12. Smith also losing out 9 places in total. So a lot of shuffling around, making up a position now to only move that to 8th. To 8 positions down from his starting position. As you can see from the tires, we see that a lot of the soft runners have moved up to the front and a lot of the mediums have drawn to the back. Shermanator now side by side takes the outside, but doesn't have enough speed to get past Thok. Thok on the softs, having a bit more traction out of that final corner. Getting a bit more speed, also being able to carry some more through the first turn, so he can brake later. But he did get a 3-second penalty just now, which means that Shermanator will get 2 positions if the timings stay like this. Arkid, in the meantime, has a 3.5-second lead on the top as F1 Dyno overtakes the steps for 4th position. Going back quickly to Shermanator, almost getting past Doc, but having to stick behind for a little bit longer. Trying to look for another opportunity to get this overtake done. So when we look at the tires, we see Arcade way at the front on those medium tires, creating a gap behind. I'm unsure if he's just that quick on those tires. We see Sven going off the track and hitting a wall, dropping down several positions, rejoining here, and getting another hit even after taking that 3-second penalty. Shermanator now with DRS, going for another opportunity, looking on the inside, but doesn't have enough speed to get past. And Sven now retires in the pits. As Shermanator has now passed Thok in the first sector. And Thok will be aiming to get a great exit here. Will have DRS to counter attack. And maybe trying to get that position back, as Shermanator does not have DRS. In terms of tire, Thok should have the advantage, as Scottish overtakes F1 Dino, who is off the track at the chicane and is rejoining in the middle of this battle that we were just watching. The Steps and Scottish now side by side, having some contact, and the Steps going off the track and losing out on this battle. F1 Dino joining in side by side with Thok around the outside, going a bit wide but still carrying a lot more speed. Thok not giving it up, looking on the inside but doesn't have enough room and sways towards the outside a bit more as well. Joining this from the behind into the final corner, and he sends it into the final corner, but he doesn't have enough traction to get out and has to stick behind for a little while longer. Look for another opportunity, maybe down into turn 1, as it is a big braking zone. Maybe F1 Dino will leave something open, but he will not take the opportunity. As here we see the Steps and Scottish battling once again, taking a lot of curb in that turn. Looks like a lot of drivers have already gained a 3-second time penalty, as Thok has just grabbed his second one in that exact position we were talking about. So Thok now overtaking F1 Dino, but he has that 3-second time penalty added to his other 3 seconds, so he will not be able to gain any positions in that matter. As the Steps overtake Scottish now for 4th position. Jan now side by side for 2nd position with Totuccio, and gaining that at the end of the back straight, going into this long sweeping right-hander, being able to keep that behind, as we see Thok sideways and backwards on the track, spinning back and rejoining. Scottish now losing a few positions. Looks like he's had a mistake, as Tongina and the Steps are now battling one corner ahead, and Tongina not being able to get both positions there. As Shermanator's also joining this group here into the final corner. We know that he has great traction out of this one. Maybe he'll be able to open up the DRS, grab the double triple slipstream, and look for a move on the inside. Scottish going slightly defensive, but Shermanator deciding against making a move there. As Tongina now gains a 3-second time penalty, and with the way this back is so tight, he will not be very happy with that, as F1 Dino's sideways backwards on the track, rejoining and dropping back a few positions. Sadly enough, there are some spins happening around here. Traction zones are not that strong, as we see Tongina not having DRS, going defensive into the chicane, but outbraking himself, having slight contact with Scottish, opening the door for Shermanator. And very nice job there from the Alpine driver, capitalizing on that mistake of these two drivers battling. and gaining that position. Dutchke behind, battling with Jaun. Getting a position as well at the end of the second part of the straight, right after the chicane. Thok losing out on the McLaren as well, and the exit of the chicane. And we look behind, we see AP17 side by side through this right-hander. Very clean from both of these drivers. Good awareness. Going around the outside, but going off the track so Ishii can take the position right back, while AP17 picks up another 3-second time penalty. We see Scottish here attacking on the start straight, looking on the inside, but as we've seen before, most drivers do not choose to make their overtake into turn 1. Maybe the braking zone is not big enough, or they don't have the exit to make a move happen here. Currently on the final lap of the sprint race, where Arkid leads by 7 full seconds, and Jan and Tutucho battling for P2. Tutucho going around the outside as Jan goes defensive. Looks for room, and they make contact, and Jan is sideways off the track. Has to rejoin and loses second position. And has to stick in third. Scottish now overtaking Tonga, but going off track in the chicane. So he drops back to 7th place, but is now vulnerable from Dutchke behind. The Ferrari driver who's lost so many positions due to a mistake and now has to rejoin the battling to make sure he can get those positions back. Getting very close there. Small contact appears between these drivers. If we look at Arkid, he has currently crossed the finish line in first and won the sprint race, but will quickly switch back onto this battle between the Ferrari and between the Mercedes drivers. Ferrari wants to take as many points into this as possible, because if another team grabs it after this second round, it will be very, very close battle. But Dutchke does not have enough speed. Scottish, however, does gain a position there on the time penalty of Tongana. And we have our points finishers all on the board now. Arkid finishing in first. Tutucho, it's 9 full seconds behind. Jan in third. Then we have the steps, Shermanator, Scottish, Tongana, and Dutchke down in P8. We see some shuffling in the back still. Mookie gaining a last minute position, it looked like, with AP17 getting a penalty added as well. Thok in 16th. And that finishes up the sprint race. Nine laps of quite some action. And here we see the final order with their points positions. Arkid grabbing 8 points for Williams. The steps topping that up to 13 for Williams. A great, great race. Ferrari bringing home only a single point, but McLaren behind did not score any points in this race, meaning Ferrari is extending the lead. But sprint race gives out small points. The real race, the feature race, brings out the big points. So we'll be looking out for that as well. And with the sprint race being over, the drivers will have a better indication as to what the tire wear is going to be on the softs and the mediums. So we saw a half the grid running softs and half the grid running mediums, and it looked like the soft tires held out pretty well, but Arkid on the front on the harder compound, being the mediums, pulling out such a gap from P2 on the softs is an insane accomplishment, as he's just able to grab so much gap, so much space, so much time on a compound that's harder. It's going to be a very difficult job for anyone that wants to overtake him in the feature race. Here we have the cars all lined up on the grid as the formation lap is a go. As you can see, we are starting with the finishing positions of the sprint race. Ricard converting a pole position to a win, and now gets to start and the front again. Tutucho in second and Jan in third, with the second Williams driver the steps down in fourth. Finishing up the front two rows. Let's take a quick look at the tire choices here. A lot of mediums, a few softs, and a singular hard tire for the steps. Ricard has chosen to go for the mediums, even though he knows that he's faster on a harder compound. But maybe wants to extend the lead a bit more. The steps now onto the hards. Maybe looking for an alternative strategy, as the soft runners are all in the back, trying to make up for lost positions from the sprint race. Here we have the possible race strategies. A one-stop from softs to mediums, or a one-stop from medium to hard. But it's also possible that the drivers will be going from mediums to the softs, depending on how much the tires wear. They've had 9 laps to deduce how far the tires are going to go. So the medium runners might have seen, hey, the wear isn't that bad. We can probably run this until past half of the race. Maybe some of the soft runners have seen, hey, we can run this entire race and still have some grip left. So we can run this for almost half the race distance, which will be 13 laps. And they'll be able to switch to the mediums after around 11 or 12 laps, meaning the soft to mediums is the go-to strategy. But only time will tell, as all these drivers are currently getting ready to start this feature race. Final drivers now also dropping their car on the grid, as we see the AlphaTauri of Sven locking in 18th position. We're waiting for the lights to go on and out for the start of the feature race here in Paul Ricard. Lights are going on, engines are roaring, and we are racing. Ricard looks to have a tiny bit better start compared to the sprint race, and we see the McLaren of Blue Dart going into the wall, losing an end plate, a bit of his wing, some shuffling behind. Scottish losing down with the fight with the step. Shermanator going all the way up to 4th, and there's a caution being thrown out as we see Tongana dropping back quite some places. Right here, a battle between the AlphaTauri Alpine and Thok in the Haas, shooting it on the inside with those soft tires, having a great start. Going a bit squirrely on the exit, so Ishii can join in on that battle. Mookie already having a 3-second time penalty for crossing too many track limits. As we see Smith in the foreground overtaking the Ferrari of Mookie, and now Ishii leading Thok. There's some shuffling going around as well, with Scottish and the steps going side by side. So there's now 3 wide almost into the right-hander at the end of the straight. We see Jown winning out on this, but Scottish is not giving up just yet, going side by side. But he is on the outside, which means that the steps and Jown both can stick on the inside. The steps on the hard compound, so he's got more work to do as he makes contact with F1 Dyno. They go sideways off the track and have to rejoin. Both of them losing out on so many positions. Scottish being very happy that one of his competitors is out of the running, but now has to make up for some time. Steps with a hard compound is unable to switch right now and has to continue, as it otherwise would be very very sad to give this hard compound back to the garage. Blue Dart getting a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. As we're now on board with Scottish. Following behind Jan. As Jan also getting very close. We see Mookie retiring after spinning out. And there's a safety car being called. You see his car on the right there. You saw a quick glimpse of it. Safety car being called after this incident, meaning the drivers can slow down, catch up, and join the train. Way up at the front, we have Ricard staying in P1, Tutucho staying in P2, and then we have the swaps going on. Shermanator winning 2 positions, Jan losing 1 position, Jan gaining 4, Scottish staying the same. Big win here from Thok, starting 16th after he had a very bad sprint race, but is now gaining quite some places in the feature race. The steps, however, losing out with that fight he had with F1 Dyno, is currently 15th, losing out 4 positions. The drivers can now choose to go either into the pit lane or staying out, and it looks like Thok is going in. As we see him tumble down the order. The steps also going in, as well as F1 Dyno, who gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. They're under the safety car. There's no reason for them to be hasty. They can take all the time they need. But F1 Dyno did pick up those 5 seconds there. So we're going to check real quick what tires they're going onto. Thok is going onto the hards, maybe looking to reach the end of this race. The steps switching from the hards to the mediums. And F1 Dyno going on to the softs. Blue Dark has pitted the lap before, so he is also on the soft tire. Here, Thok gaining a 3-second time penalty from multiple warnings as he's trying to catch up with the grid. With the rest of the drivers. Some big wiggling there from Scottish. Looking to gain some heat into those tires. Hopefully the safety car will be in this lap if Blue Dark gets close enough to the back of the grid, but we'll see that in a few corners time. Because the speed is decreased by such a big amount on these long straights, the safety car laps take way longer than the race laps. So we'll have to... So we ideally want as little safety car laps as possible, but it looks like the safety car is gonna go for another lap. Which means that we have to sit and wait for a little bit longer. Take this time a quick 2 minutes to grab something to drink, something to eat. A quick snack. So we're getting ready to resume racing on the next lap as F1 Dyno looks to be shooting into the pits. As well as Blue Dark. You can see that on this screen right here. I believe, let's check real quick what the difference is between this one. This one shows the penalties, that one shows the pit. You see F1 Dyno and Blue Dark both going into the pits, and we're going to check real quick. F1 Dyno switching from the softs to the mediums as well as Blue Dark. Both having the same idea there. It looks like Blue Dark had a better pit stop as he's exiting in front of F1 Dyno. These drivers now having to catch up about 25 seconds to get back to the rest of the grid as they're following the safety car down on the back straight. And here we get the confirmation from race control that the safety car will be in this lap. All the drivers have joined the train. The Arcid slows down the pace. Safety car moving towards the pit lane. And here comes the important part. It is now Arcid's choice when we go back to racing speed. He has all the control now, although they're not allowed to overtake before the start-finish timing line. Which means that he can wait until the final possible moment. Slowing down almost to a halt there. Going through this final section of the track. The last two corners. Still weaving back and forth. Going into the right-hander. And dropping the pedal down to the floor now for a great restart here. Catching Totuccio completely off guard. And does not have enough time to respond. Some shuffling down the back. Jown going sideways next to Scottish and overtaking him for that position. Scottish having to stick further behind. Thok now gaining a position on Swanee, who appears to be dropping back a few. Same goes for Sven being ghosted. As there's a yellow flag in Sector 1 and looks like F1 Dyno Blue Dog have had contact and are continuing to race right now. Scottish right next to Jown, as there's no DRS yet. Up front as well, Jan overtaking Shermanator on pure speed and slipstream here. There's no DRS just yet. Scottish also having to wait for the flap to be open, but has a great exit out of the chicane and going right next to Jown. And maybe even getting the overtake done before the corner. Yes, he has parked it in front and gained that position. But it is not over yet. We see Jown fighting and leaving the inside open for Smith to go through. And a beautiful job by the AlphaTauri driver. Being able to open up like that. The steps in the back, gaining positions. As well as Thok, both of those drivers, gaining some spots. And making up for the time that they lost before. We have Shermanator looking in his mirrors. Behind him, Jan. Looking to get a overtake done. Looks but doesn't go for it. Again, turn 1, not a big hit with those the drivers. They prefer to stay behind, carry the momentum, and overtake in a different section of the track. On the top of your screen here, you see Tutschke also joining in on a battle. Small train here, and these all have DRS. Jown is right on the edge, but I believe he does not have DRS. After all, up front, Jan not able to do anything there. Smith does get the overtake done as well as Tutschke going past Scottish and Jown respectively. Both gaining a position there on the straight without DRS. So this is a overtake purely on speed. Tongana getting overtaken by his teammate. Looks like he's made a slight mistake. As Thok gets another overtake done on Ishii right here on your screen. And Tongana almost getting that done as well. Ishii here, the Alpine driver, getting double teamed by the Haas drivers. Going wide under the pressure as the steps can capitalize on this. And also getting past Ishii, losing out on 3 positions in only a few corners time. Tongana slowing down a lot there. Hitting the steps and causing him to back up a bit. Making a gap between the two Haas drivers. Now the question is that intentional or not? So we'll see from the stewards. See the steps now following Tongana, but there's more than a second gap to the car in front, meaning that Tongana will not have the DRS to defend. AP17 gathers a 3-second time penalty as well. Jan having a great exit out of that corner there. It's a very difficult corner to gain traction out of. Shermanator going a bit too far on the left. A bad start to that corner. And of course, Jan having the DRS going past very quickly. Scottish also looking for something, but doesn't find it. As we see the steps now overtaking Tongana. As expected with the DRS. The house driver has nothing to defend with. Up front we see Shermanator following the Red Bull out of the chicane. Not able to make anything happen as Scottish looks for an overtake as well, but doesn't get anything. Shermanator dipping too far into that corner and gets a 3-second time penalty now side by side with Smith. Smith carrying a lot more speed, but now the inside is also open for Scottish to go through. Has to carry it around the outside, and he does. Both of these drivers getting in position, but Shermanator putting it on the inside and hitting Scottish sideways. Losing out on some positions, having to rejoin down in 8th position and try again. A very ambitious send there from the Alpine driver, causing the Mercedes car to lose out. I'm sure the stewards will have their hands full with this race. Especially after these few maneuvers. Thok now joining in, getting very close to the Mercedes, almost kissing the backside of his gearbox. Getting a great exit here, but is being attacked by the steps. Both drivers having DRS now opened. Scottish overtaking the Alfa Romeo, who is defenseless against the speed of the DRS, but the more interesting battle is right behind. The Thok has a bad exit there out of the chicane, and the steps has a great exit following the two cars ahead, but unable to act on it and has to sit behind a little bit longer. Jaun almost getting ready for an overtake as well, but it's very difficult in these fast corners. We see the steps breaking a bit early. Thok putting his nose inside, but unable to make overtake. You see the different compounds as well. The steps going on the inside, but first around the outside and then switching over to the inside there. A very nice overtake. And Thok getting that 3-second time penalty. Tutschke up front, gaining a position there on Jan, as Jan also lost a position to Smith a few corners back. Looking here at the steps, also not sending it into turn 1, but rather staying behind, as we've seen so many times already. He now has to wait and get a great exit out of these few corners, especially this next one. The line is more important than the traction. He does it beautifully, and Scottish has nothing to defend. Even without DRS, I believe that the steps would have been able to make this work, as he's passed and planted right in front of the Mercedes. A very nice overtake here, and we look a little bit further ahead as this small train of Smith, Tutschke and Jan, all within a few tenths of each other, fighting for the final podium position. Scottish almost getting ready to overtake the steps there, but waiting a bit longer. Ricard currently having a 3-second lead over Tutuccio after 10 laps. Jaun getting a 3-second time penalty and a 5-second time penalty added to that for speeding in the pit lane, as Jaun goes in to the pits, followed by Tongina also going for the first regular stop of this race. Interesting to see what those stops will be about. Both drivers opting to go for the hard tire. They don't think that the medium tires or another medium tire will finish the race. So they're going for the hard tires in the hopes of finishing this, as Tutschke takes third position very slightly there. Smith still keeping it side by side, but Tutschke winning out on this. Having to go defensive as he's not fully passed, but in his fast right-hander, it is not smart to go side by side. So Tutschke gaining that position. A very nice job. He's going a tiny bit wide. Smith almost looking for an overtake, but not deciding to not send his nose down on the inside of the Ferrari. The steps now closing as well as F1 Dyno is retired from the session. The Alfa Romeo has stopped halfway in the final sector. So we see the safety car coming out and Ishii diving instantly into the pits, but getting a 5-second time penalty for speeding, as Thok is also in the pits, being followed by AP17, and I believe a lot of drivers will be getting into the pits as the Aston Martin also gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding. As the race has been interrupted once again, we can see that Thok has changed to the medium tires, Ishii to the hards, and AP17 to the mediums. For the back, Sven and Swanee also into the pit. Swanee going onto the hards. Looks like Sven still has to stop. Let's see what compound he's going to. Also to the hard compound. So Thok thinking that the medium can finish this race with 16 laps remaining. AP17 doing the exact same, also running to the mediums. So the front of the grid have not had the chance to go into the pits when the safety car was called out, because they were already past the entry. So let's see which one of these drivers are going in. Looks like Arkid will be going in. Tutucho also moving towards the pit lane. Tutschke looks also to be going in, followed by Smith. Jan exceeding track limits, cutting the track there, entering the pits and getting a penalty for that. Shermaid is Scottish, the steps, all of these drivers going into the pits. It's going to be interesting to see where they'll end up compared to the rest of the grid. We can see Arkid, Tutucho going for the hards, Tutschke as well. Looks like everyone up front will be going for the hards and also exiting where they were on track. With Arkid in first, Tutucho in second, Tutschke in third. Joining here at the back of the safety car. The steps, however, has a different plan, moving to the soft tires. A bold move, I must say. Having 15 laps remaining, going on the softs while in 8th place, while everyone around you is on either the mediums or the hards. AP17 on the mediums, Thok on the mediums, and the rest is all of his other competitors are all on the hard compound. So this is going to be a gamble and a half for the Williams driver, who started in 4th position, I believe, drops down 4 positions into 8th. So we're waiting for every driver, every car to line up behind the safety car once again, so we can get racing again. So the safety car will go for another lap, as we're quickly going to look at the constructor standings. We have Ferrari in first with quite a big lead, and Tutschke in third. Maybe looks like no one can overtake them for this event. But then if we look further behind, we see McLaren and Mercedes only separated by 2 points. McLaren is second, Mercedes in third. So with the current finishing order, Blue Dark will not be scoring any points, but Scottish will be taking home a big bag. However, Alpine is in the same boat as Mercedes, also having 26 points and being 2 points behind McLaren. If we look at the standings, Shermanator is ahead of Scottish, but Ishii is also in 11th position. Now in this league, 11th place will get some points. Look at the finishing position from last event. Rios was in 11th place, scoring 10 points, looks like. So that means that Alpine will bring home quite a few points. Williams currently 18 points, so they have 8 points to gain on Alpine and Mercedes. But if you look at Arcade in first, the Steps in 8th, with a gamble strategy, you might be able to see the Steps either gain a lot of positions or lose a lot of positions, depending on how he will be pulling this one off. But for that, we just have to wait and see what happens. Here we have the confirmation of the safety car being in this lap. As you can see on the standings, we can see a lot of penalties in the second half of the grid. We see 3 seconds on Shermanator, 3 seconds on Jan, 9 seconds on Thok, 8 seconds on Jaun. Ishii has 5 seconds, Tongana 3 seconds, and AP17 8 seconds of penalties. The 5-second penalties will be able to serve. They will be able to serve the 5-second penalties under the pit stops, but the 3-second penalties will be added to their final time, as Arcade is getting ready for his second safety car restart here on lap 13. Will be 14 as they pass the timing line. Heading into the second half of this race, just like yesterday. And it looks like Arcade has already dropped the pedal. He's already going, catching Tatucho off guard once again. Giving Ishii a 3-second time penalty, making that 8 seconds in total. Arcade guiding away quite well. Tatucho still following pretty well. Touchkey also within the range there, as the drivers behind appear to be a lot closer. There's a battle here for 6th position. The Steps on the soft tires will be looking to get as many overtakes as quickly as possible, as there's a yellow flag in Sector 1 for Ishii, who's dropped down to 16th place. The Steps now looking to get one of the overtakes done here with the soft compound. We see Shermanator going and looking as well on Smith, but doesn't get past the AlphaTauri. The Steps now carrying a lot more speed, or being able to carry a lot more speed with those soft tires, but doesn't make any progress so far, and has to follow this train. He does have a small gap to the cars behind, but it does not appear he can do too much, as he goes on the inside of the Red Bull Jan and has to stick around the outside for the next turn. But if he can stick right with him, he has the inside for the left-hander, and he does. Side by side still, Jan sticking in his nose, giving enough space from the Steps. Wheel to wheel, they were interlocked with each other, taking each other on a slippery slope there, losing some time, but both drivers made it out, and the Steps has gained that position. Not the cleanest battle, but it was one that was enjoyable to watch. The steps now setting his sights on that battle in front of him. Shermanator and Scottish. Shermanator on the brink of losing DRS. Scottish following him and having that DRS for the next lap, as there are mandatory 3 laps before 2 laps on the 3rd lap after the safety car. The DRS will be enabled. To see Tutschke as well defending from Smith a little bit further ahead, trying to keep his that final podium position. So they're finishing up the back straight. Tutschke is getting very close to losing that. Smith looking on the inside, but doesn't have the speed to get side by side, so doesn't have to force anything, especially on these hard tires. Finding the grip will be very difficult. As we can see behind that, the steps is looking and looking more and more every single time, getting great traction out of that corner. Going right next up into Shermanator. Shermanator out braking and getting overtaken now by the steps, having to stick behind, and the steps gaining a few positions with that soft compound. Now Jan, 3-second time penalty won't stop him on the outside of turn 1. Will he make it stick? Going quite deep, but still wheel to wheel as Shermanator goes off the track a bit and rejoins later on. You see AP17 has some issues going into the pits, currently having 16 seconds of time penalty, which he will be serving a bit of right now. Ricard having a 2.2 second lead over to Tucho, but the real battling happening further behind. We see yellow flag for appears to be Jan sideways with a Haas as well. Is that Thok losing his front wing? And some more stuff happening as well. I believe I saw some styrofoam, the boards lying on the ground as well. Blue Dark losing a position as Ishii has DRS and makes a clean overtake. No safety car for now. Scottish getting really close for an overtake as well. Stuchke has been overtaken by Smith and looking to make the return onto that podium, as there are 11 laps remaining for him to try. AP17 only having served 5 seconds of that those penalties, unable to serve the rest. But when Tutschke looks in his mirror, Jan has retired after that incident. Tutschke looks in his mirrors, he's going to see the incredible speed of the steps with those soft tires. So we will most likely see something happening in the next few corners, as Thok and Jan both retired in the pits after those incidents, not willing to continue driving in this race. The steps now with that wing open, Tutschke as well for defense, but the Williams car does not have enough speed to get next to the Ferrari and has to wait at the back and try to get the approach that fits the soft tires against the hard tires. Going for the overspeed out of the corners, carrying more speed through them. So it looks like we have a Red Bull going very slowly. That's not this Red Bull, that's a Red Bull Jan getting out on track even after he has retired. It's now being picked up. The yellow flag has been cleared. Ricard comfortably leading this race so far, has been the entire time, and does so after each safety car restart. Tutschke almost losing DRS there, but has it for a little bit, but the steps having a better exit with those soft tires, being able to put down the throttle a lot easier, a lot earlier, and makes the overtake stick. Something that is necessary for him to be able to compete at the top, as his tires will drop in performance very quickly, because the soft tires have lower durability but a higher average speed. More grip, as the steps does not have DRS for the straight to defend from Tuchki. Tuchki being able to go make the overtake happen. Scottish looking to capitalize on that, and he hits the steps as they both go off the track, trying to rejoin. Scottish jumping over the steps, apparently. That is a thing now, using Mario Kart power-ups in this race. Being followed by Shermanator as well. This battle seems to be going on while Tuchki runs away with the prize of 4th currently. This small pack battling. You see Scottish going a bit wide, losing out on speed. The steps around the outside. We know that the soft tire can carry a lot more speed, has a lot more grip, and he makes the overtake happen. So this sector 3 is a great place for those soft tires to shine. And now has 4 seconds to make up for to get back into that battle and maybe grab a podium position. Shermanator having DRS. The only driver in this train not having it is the steps up front. But he's got a great enough exit to not be overtaken. As we've seen end plate fly off, and I believe that is from the Alpine there. It's left end plate flying off after some contact with the Mercedes of Scottish ahead. Scottish getting a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. We see that happen quite a lot here in the first go. For second place on the straight. Shermanator also overtaking Scottish with the DRS. And Tuchki now very, very close for this battle for second place. So we see Sven and Swanee. I thought this was going to be an interesting battle, but they are ghosted. And my graphics does not like ghosted cars. Apparently, Tuchki following Tutucho looks to have a bit of trouble. And he gets tapped by his front wheel going sideways. Spinning, losing some time. And having to regroup. Currently in lap 20 of 27. As Shermanator goes into the pits and Scottish DNFing. Unsure what's happened. He's gone into the pits and retired from the race. So we will not be seeing a safety car, luckily, which is very nice after those few that we've seen already. Blue Dark now jumping up into 10th position. 9th now with Shermanator in the pits. Looking to get some more positions as the drivers ahead have quite some big penalties. Ishii has 8 seconds, Tongana 3 seconds, and Jaun having 11 seconds of penalties. Shermanator getting another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings now. As we see Tutucho following Smith into the final sector of the track. And in the background we see Tuchki getting ready to join this fight as well. Maybe grabbing that final podium position. Or maybe even the middle step. Who knows? The middle step being P2. I know the middle step on the podium is P1. But in this sentence it means P2. Tuchki not having DRS just yet. Jaun getting another 5-second time penalty. Tutucho, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. This will impact the podium standings most likely, as Tuchki now only has to stay within 3 seconds to gain one of those spots. A very, very interesting development in this race. Tongana overtaking Jaun in the pit lane, as Jaun has to serve some time, not criminally. Of course. Smith going a bit wide on the straight, looking back and seeing Tutucho behind him, thinking, oh, I don't have to go defensive just yet. I can wait for a tiny bit longer. But Tutucho is getting awfully close there. increasing the gap behind. He needs that to be 3 seconds at the very least, as Arkid gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Apparently he is pushing as well. He's currently got a 6-second lead over Smith, which means that those 3-second time penalties will not do that much. Blue Dark getting a penalty as well. So a lot of drivers picking some time up. Arkid pushing maybe a bit too much, trying to extend that lead and getting a penalty as a small slap on the wrist, saying, hey, just maybe cool it a little bit. Shermanator now on a charge as well. Getting very close to Blue Dark on the inside, as he is on the soft tires. Around the outside of these final turns, does not have enough speed, doesn't look for something on the inside. He's got Tongana as well. And Tutucho hitting it in the wall, giving Tutski that third position and dropping him back. Tongana now past the McLaren of Blue Dark, side by side with Shermanator into the first turn, but doesn't, and he banks out. Tutucho looks like the car is fine, but he did lose the second position there to Tutski, who is now eager to get closer to Smith and drive his own little race up to the top. Shermanator now following his teammate onto the straight. Ishii not having that DRS. If you look at this penalties, it's Ishii with 8 seconds, Shermanator 6, and then Tongana with 3, which means that the strategy will most likely be let Shermanator past, create that 3-second gap, as Tongana looks to be more competitive on this, which is thanks to his soft compound as well as Shermanator. Both of these drivers running the soft tires for this final stint of the race. Tongana on the inside, getting dapped and going sideways off the track, has to rejoin and losing a position and another one right there. Very sad development for the Haas driver, as it was a great opportunity to go on the inside. The steps now putting in a 1 minute 31.7, grabbing the fastest lap of Arkid. So staying with Williams, is just switching to a different driver. Jown now very close to an overtake on Blue Dark as well on the straight. It's not utilized DRS, but will follow very closely. He is on the medium compound if you look at the yellow wall of the tire, but he has a still 11 seconds of time penalty, which means that he'll be dropping down a few places at the very least. Tongana also looking for an overtake here, eager to get past. Jown now side by side with the McLaren. Tongana also getting past Blue Dark, having to stick behind, not having DRS, but Tongana looks to go a little bit deep. Can Blue Dark capitalize? He cannot, and has to wait behind. A double overtake for these drivers. Blue Dark losing out on 2 positions. As we're approaching the final stretch of the race, looking at the tire compounds, we see that the steps is on 2-lap old soft. Shermanator 3-lap old softs. Tongana 2-lap old softs. So the steps has made a risky strategy by going onto the softs, then pitting once more onto the softs. And he's made it work. He's currently in 5th place, has 11 seconds to go. But that goes down to 8 when you apply the penalties. But will it be enough? Looking out in front, we see Jown on the outside of Ishii. Doesn't get close enough to make a move. Waiting behind for the DRS straight, most likely, as Ishii is more than a second back on his teammate Shermanator and will not have the DRS to defend. But still, Jown going for a wide exit as he's being overtaken by Tongana, who gets very squirrely in that right-hander and does not stick anything. And he has to wait and try again. That small move there as he goes on the inside to make contact, and they're both synchronized spinning and also synchronized recovering, giving back those positions to Blue Dark, as that was a very ambitious send by the Haas driver, losing both drivers a position and giving Ishii some breathing room. Incidents like these have been happening the entire race already, so I'm sure the stewards will have their hands full trying to figure out what to do and what will be the right choice. Tongana now on the inside of Blue Dark, and they make contact going into the wall, and I believe that will be race over. No, it is not. They keep their tires on the car, but it looks like Blue Dark is able to stay on the track. He's lost his end plate. And Tongana as well. You see Ishii getting a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. See both drivers losing their left side end plate. Synchronized damage on these final few laps. Not worth it to pit now, as AP17 behind has got a 14-second time penalty. And it's also 20 seconds behind, so these drivers will probably try and maybe battle with each other, realizing they cannot catch the cars ahead anymore. Some funky things going on behind. We still see Sven and Swanee being ghosted, being overtaken now by what looks to be Tutski. So those drivers are lapped, as all the gaps between drivers are currently more than 3 seconds. So there are no battles currently going on. We can kind of calculate the final standings, but of course everything can still change. For now, we're going to look at the leading driver, Ricard, who has a 7-second gap to the car behind. Has had a phenomenal performance today on the sprint race, qualifying, and the feature race, bringing home all the points possible for Williams, moving them higher up in the standings, and of course not without the help of his teammate of the steps in 5th place. Very good team effort by these guys. A great job, and a lot of points being scored. The race is not over yet, and I believe there's one driver that is trying to say that, especially, which is Jaun. Currently already gained 1.5 seconds since we switched to looking to Ricard. Now 1.3 seconds behind Ishii. Ishii on the hard tires and Jaun on the newer medium tires. Same amount of penalties, so this is a race for position and also for points. Alpine currently having 6th and 7th locked out. But Jaun is looking to make that 6th and 8th and splitting these cars. Splitting the team. And showing them, hey, I am here too. Dutchke gaining a 3-second time penalty. Neutralizing the difference between him and Tuccio. Jaun now getting very close to the back of the Alpine. Knows he only has 1 lap remaining to make something happen. Will have the DRS on the start-finish straight. Looking to get the best exit possible out of the final turn, following the Alpine. As we go on the board, does not have much battery left. What about Ishii? Does not either. The wing is open on the rear of the Alfa Romeo, but does not get close enough for an overtake on the Alpine driver. And he's got a few more spots where he can try to get an overtake done. The easy one will be on the back straight, where Ishii will not have DRS. Jaun will, but that leaves him vulnerable for attacks in the 3rd sector. But then again, you have to try and have to take every opportunity possible. Here we go. Onto the back straight. The wing is open now. You hear the beep. It's going side by side. Ishii looking to defend early on, but realizes that it is over, and Jown taking the position as Arcade has crossed the finish line in first, claiming the victory. Smith going on to the second step of the podium. Tutski now finishing up the podium by finishing in third. Ishii sticking close to the Alfa Romeo on the hard tires. Has a hard time, pun intended, keeping up through these fast corners that require a lot of grip, meaning that this position is lost. It is over, and the Alpines have been split by Jown. An incredible performance as well. And with all these penalties applied, we'll be able to see the final standings at the end. We'll have to wait until all drivers have passed the timing line. Tongana now getting close to that as well. Blue Dark rounding out the final corner. And then our final driver, AP17, currently in Sector 3 as well. As this will be the final standings. Arcade winning out on the everything actually in the event. Getting the win in the sprint race as well as the feature race, and then having pole position as well. The fastest lap has been taken by his teammate The Steps, who finished a bit further down, but has taken driver of the day with that incredible strategy that he has pulled off. And here we see Arcade at the front shooting his arrows and absolutely hitting every single one of them today. Except for one, which is the fastest lap. But you cannot complain when you've scored 31 points this weekend on one race, which is the main race. Or is that 32? Unsure. But at least a lot of action on the track. Here we see the total points. While with the official Formula 1 results, but this league, Divine Eye Racing Series, uses a different point system. So you'll have to check for that in the Discord server. For now, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe and like the stream. Share it with your friends and family. Make sure everyone watches. And with that, we'll see you in the next one.